the human needs. Their rights must be respected. So that's why food security becomes part of national security.
FBI and the CIA, they all agree that one of the greatest global security threats is climate change. People like the prostitutes, some of them will not want to talk about them. But if you say you're a human rights defender, what are you doing to protect them?
Obote and the others put up the NSSF fund. Now there is money as social security. You steal it, and you realize in the future you will not be able to pay. You want to make a law that if you had your money there, on retirement you can only get 30%.
We are here for a very crucial discussion about peace and security in regard to its inclusion in the post-2015 development agenda. You might have heard that there are 17 suggested flagship points to be included in the post-2015 development agenda after the outgoing MDGs by the United Nations. And building peace and stable societies is goal number 8. And there are targets, and then also the pillars, and not necessarily the pillars, but policy steps. In other words, because when you say, I would like to achieve this, then the underlying question is, how do you get there? And you get there, particularly, you achieve it, so what? Something like that. So how will it help society, how will it transform us as it is? So peace, important as it is, and also the African nations having said, and in their 6 pillar points, decided that peace and security should be seriously thought about in the discussions of the post-2015 development agenda, and also given that this time around the approach is that it should be the people, should bottom up, the people and the government giving their positions on what they feel they need, and then the final discussions are made at the top, that is at the United Nations level. We are very glad to host an authority in this, because he is in the structures of the United Nations, and therefore what we shall discuss, he will be able to take it up there. So Mr. Richard Baguma Tinkasimile is the Secretary General of the United Nations Association of Uganda, and also a broadcaster by profession. Shall we, ladies and gentlemen, welcome him with a very big hand clap. This is the very good time to have received our other panelists, not to all of us, I guess. If you have not seen him, you have heard him, or you have read about him. Honorable David Polkol, and I will request the Secretary General of the United Nations Association of Uganda, Mr. Baguma Tinkasimile, Richard, with all the due respect and humbleness in me, I do welcome you to address us, sir.
All protocol observed.
Mr. Moderator, thank you very much for agreeing to work with us on this topic, but also for inviting us to this space. A case for including peace and security in the global development goals. In the year 2000, and if some of you were not as young then, you remember the excitement that followed the year 2000. New millennium, new everything. There was something called Y2K. I don't know if you remember. They put in so many billions, YK, Y2K, that the computers are going to stop, that something is going to change. Wapi. So we went to New York and they made what they called a Millennium Declaration. Therefore, the Millennium Development Goals started. And they said in 15 years, number 1, eradicate poverty by something. Number 2, universal primary education. Now, 2015 is obviously coming. We are about to reach there. I don't know whether we have eradicated poverty. But one thing for us in the United Nations, you know, the United Nations, if you probably, I may say this, was formed as a result of the world wars. That is the history of the United Nations. It is an organization that is a result of world wars. So one of the pillars is peace. The other one is human rights and then human development. And we started questioning, because for us, we come from the NGO world, although we are affiliated to the UN, and we started agitating. But if peace is the pillar of the United Nations, how come it does not feature prominently in the plans, in the programs of the UN? So we needed to be put there explicitly now. That was our argument. And that is the argument we still make. That, and I'm going to quote Forrest Whitaker. Forrest Whitaker was at one of the side meetings we had. He has a peace and conflict resolution organization. And so I told him that, you see, you are my former president on screen. And so tell me. And he said, I am a billionaire. Because for him in the meeting they said he represents the Republic of Hollywood. But I have learned over time that where there is no peace, there is no development, sustainable development, and where there is no sustainable development, there is no peace. The two feed off each other. And we think that, therefore, if you make any global plans, any global budgets, you must include proactively the issue of peace. What is happening now is that the world is focusing on peacekeeping and peace enforcement. You do not see the same attention to conflict prevention, to peace building. And you know, partly it's understandable, because the war industry is one of the most lucrative industries in the world. We also know that the big economies, sometimes when they are going down, they provoke wars in order to boost their economies. And those are the facts of life. We would like to have, and you know, one of the countries that is opposing this is South Africa, by the way. South Africa is one of the nations that is opposing inclusion of the issue of peace and security in the development goals of the world. We haven't understood why. We thought they would know. We are talking about preventive, proactive, and you know what that is? It's really democratic governance. That's what it means. It's investing in people. That's what it means. We also think that if this is included in the plans, as recommended, like he said, in one of the goals, as recommended by the African Union, you know, the African Union has a position on the global agenda, and it has 6 pillars, and pillar number 5 is already on peace and security. In Uganda's National Development Plan, the one which is being revised now, it has also integrated peace and security in a proactive manner. But for me, the question of peace is a constitutional question. The question of my being secure is a constitutional question. That's guaranteed by the Constitution. A Constitution. But we think 2 things that must be emphasized. The first one is the issue of livelihood security. How are my livelihoods secured? For the young people and the old ones too. It means incomes, it means social security, it means health, it means nutrition, because those are the things that secure our lives. That's where we would like the goals, the investments to be post-2015. We would like to see that these are used as planning tools, they are used as budgeting tools, they are used to monitor, they are used to review and evaluate. And we are also planning, I don't know who brought the cycle of 15 years, but again we are planning for 2015 to 2030. That is the plan. And for some of you who are in this social development, you should be looking at the agenda we are discussing now, because that's where the funds are going to be. And that's why I always tell the young people, the youth, that you see, youth is not a permanent state of being. It's a transitory state. You very quickly stop being a youth. And I don't know if you know the constitution of Uganda. It does not allow a youth to be a president. I don't know if you know that. It doesn't allow you. It tells you that you are incapable. But it is your constitution. I have not had a voice from a youth group, a strong youth group, challenging that. I have not had. Maybe they are comfortable with not being president. Okay. But we think that for us to have sustainable, secure livelihoods, the largest section of the world population. If you look at the world population statistics, you, the young people, are the largest numbers. And you know why that is going to remain like that for some time? Because for us, the adults, we are producing a lot of youth. And so the ones we are producing are going to be useful very quickly. By the way, you'll be out. You're going to be out quickly. So you better prepare to be a non-youth. Yeah, prepare for it. It's coming very, very fast. And then, but we are producing many children. In Uganda, we estimate that we have 1.5 million children every year. 1.5 million. That is our fertility rate. And it doesn't matter that we are going to school or not. We think that for us to maintain peace and to maintain sustainable, secure livelihoods, we need to invest in the young population now, to invest even in the younger population. And we think we need to be proactive, not reactive to the issues of peace and the issues of security. I know there will be a discussion. I want to end here. And I'll probably have an opportunity to respond to discussions. So tell me what to report when I'm reporting back. I thank you very much.
So, thank you very much. I also want to thank you, in addition to the good presentation. So, having said that, I will now request Honorable David Pulkol to speak to us. Honorable.
Somebody was in charge of emergency response, emergency preparedness of the UNICEF country offices. And usually in a conflict, in a war, women and children are the first to be caught up in that situation. As hot water rises up, leaving the rest of the liquid cool, all the technical people run away, the teachers, the doctors, and so forth from a war front. And even the UN runs away. They only come when there is peacetime, and yet they run away when they must be there, when they are needed most. What an interesting opportunity to see that this time round, the UN is being implored to include peace and security, peace and stability as one of its core post-2015 agenda. That's very significant. That's the point I'm making. I remember when I was involved in humanitarian diplomacy, negotiating with Savimbi to allow us to immunize children in that northern part of Angola, or with warlords in Somalia, with our country programs, whether in Baidoa or in Lower Shabelle or up, and we pump foodstuffs and those immunization things, or when, in this case, the Mai Mai were negotiating on how to immunize their kids, and then they say, no, you put the boxes there, we shall come and take them, and we shall immunize the kids ourselves. So you could see an preposition, or when you're negotiating, at that time, UPDF and RPF were fighting in Kisangani. At the time I was in charge of the immunization program, and kids got caught up in immunization centers in Kisangani, and had like 3.5 million vaccines which were going to die because the generators in the Catholic mission Kisangani were running dry. And I had to talk to Kabarebe, I had to talk to Jeje Odong to prevail on his men on the ground to put fuel on those in the middle of a conflict, on those generators, so that we save those kids. So peace and security is very, very fundamental. And citizens who get caught up in such situations, the UN needs to have a feeling. The citizens don't know how they got into it. but the reality, they are caught in it, and how to get out of it is not always easy. So let's see, what do they say should be included? And who's pushing this agenda? I'm also happy to find that it is lead companies, private sector people, who are really pushing hard for peace and security, creating stable, secure societies as a goal of the United Nations, and committing all the member countries. Because today, you have businesses, multinationals, have taken over the world. Okay, they have negotiated through the grassroots institutions, the World Bank and so forth, free access, deregulation, what would they call retrenchment. There is all kinds of terms that have come in, liberalization and so forth. It has given them more access as countries. As they say, governments cannot do business. That government business is only to make policy and enabling environment. That government cannot do business. And so our government here is among the governments in the world, I think, who are very religious on this. They sold everything, whether it is railways or it is airlines. So ours here seem to believe in a very terrible religion, that if government has money, it must be stolen. They believe that if government has cars, they must be banked or they must be sold off. If government has houses, if government has banks, it must be sold. If government has aeroplanes, then look at that. Government should not own anything. It should be individuals who must be richer than the state. And yet the states have more responsibility. That's a terrible religion. They now even want to say that if there's minerals in your land, you have no business being there. Can you imagine? I mean, you had no say in putting... They want to hand it over to private people, okay, to have access. They have no regard for people like you. And I'm not saying, will that bring peace? Will that bring stability? So, whose peace? Whose stability? Whose security? I think it's important to question and to follow the debate which is going on. To now, what are they saying? I'd like to look at the tree. Why is business pushing this? It's very good. Why are they pushing for this? Because now, multinationals, people like Bill Gates, are now more richer than even some countries. Okay? When you look at the GDP of some countries and look at the turnover, the profit margins of some of these people. So they have discovered now the hard way that actually you cannot enjoy and continue to make money if the place becomes unstable, if it remains insecure. So therefore, if you like the tree, that the roots down there, which is really the root factors. So where does this peace and security lie? Okay, they say peace and security. They say technology and science should be an infrastructure. They say good governance and so forth as part of issues that are coming up. That even you ignore good governance, accountability, transparency, and so forth to citizens and participation of citizens, you can actually undermine all this economic growth. So these issues are beginning to come in the debate, as Mr. Baguma has put. But then there are those who are saying food and agriculture must be in, water and sanitation must be in, energy and climate change must be in, and then they say education is key, women's empowerment and gender equity is in, and then they rap something about harnessing youth something. But youth unemployment, which is a big thing, is not yet in. It's being lost in these so-called women empowerment, gender equity, so I think it's very important. And yet, if you don't handle the youth unemployment, it can explode. It's a peace security issue. It's a stability issue. So health, yes, is there. So if you look at a tree and look at the fruits there, prosperity and equity, that's what they aim to get, their total outcome in 2030. What do they want to get as an end state? They're aiming for prosperity and equity. Now, all these things that can contribute to the fruits of that tree. Now, Millennium Development Goals have ended, and we in Karamoja are still off track. We cannot even achieve one of those goals. It's terrible. And we are part of a country called Uganda. So we are totally off track. there's no hope of coming there because left a few. So 8 children are dying, or under 1 year are dying every day. When you say per month, per year, after every 5 years, how many? So it's about 16 children under 1 are dying every day. So it's a challenge. Even the UPE coverage is 22%. The rest of the country is celebrating. So what am I saying? Let's see what it is they're including in the peace and security. Under goal number 8, they're saying build peaceful and stable societies. So targets include improve access to diverse ethnic, religious, and social groups to justice, services, and economic opportunity. That for you to create a stable society, one of the targets is to broaden economic growth so that all these different tribes, different religions, different social groups are accessible. The economy should not grow only in a few pockets like here today. It is growing in Sudir's pocket, in I think the late Murwana's pocket, in a few pockets. And the rest are just, the economy is growing just by stealing. Now when you look at the post-conflict situations like Kasese, there are historical injustices which were not addressed. And besides, now new conflict drivers have come in. The others have not been resolved and they're still persisting. So you can see what can explode. Even the Luero Triangle, even in the Karamoja area. So I think it's very important, they say, reduce incidence of violent deaths per 100,000 by at least 20%. So they are aiming in 15 years to reduce violent death by at least 20%. And then prevent, combat, and reduce the illicit trade in small arms and light weapons. So yeah, because of these Kalashnikovs, which are really in our inner cities, in our peripheral areas, in the remote parts of our country. So I think it's important to deal with that situation as well, because of the robberies, and so that people can live in peace. Reduce the reach and the extent of organized crime, especially through the provision of the United Nations Convention Against Transitional Organized Crime, and so forth. So these are issues they are putting there, but is it enough? Is it enough? So I think it's good that people are negotiating through these issues, and you find the one of Africa doesn't even have about youth unemployment. And today in Uganda, being the second youngest population in the world, I think, or in Africa, second to Benin. So you find that an average Ugandan is now 15 years old. So I think those of us sitting here cannot qualify to be Ugandans. And I think we cannot talk for Uganda because the real Ugandans now are 15 years. But where are they? They are gambling, they are sports betting, they are what? You know what I'm talking about. Some of them even are betting their school fees and cannot even finish schools now. It's a real challenge. So what does it mean to the future peace and security of this world? So, but I would like to see a broader concept of peace, of security, not just bullet and metal. I would like to see malaria as a security issue, like now Ebola. At what point does it become a security issue? Okay, environmental security, food security, income security. So I really need to broaden this concept of security, not just to narrow it down to mere bullet and metal, the way our Kampala people are doing. Okay, like Kale Kai horror, with the horror police, unleashing horror. You leave my friend Kale Kai Hura, he's a good man. But when you come to the horror police, okay, and unleashing horror on our population. So I think these are issues we must question. And when you get a whole chief of staff of land forces going to command a lorry full of soldiers in a mama's residence, do you really need all that? One Leonard Chanda. Is it because you were personal bodyguard of Museveni, and therefore your concept of national security is regime security, not even state security? Your loyalties to the individual, and not second to the army, and third to the country. That's really making democrats stand on its head, upside down. Your loyalty should first be to the country, to the army second, and to the individual last. But that is the concept of security. So is that what we are, is that the thing we are reading being included into the UN or something else? May God bless us.
Thank you very much, Honorable, for the good submission. Yes, but now, before we go to the members, shall we have Honorable Rumshana say something?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Freedom from violence. Violence from who? Because for you, you want freedom from violence. Who is going to serve you with violence? If you are not going to be the one to serve violence with yourself. Now I'm going to give you my small history, my small story as an individual. I grew up at a fishing landing site called Wenshama. Those who know it, and those who know what goes on a landing site. Still, because as I speak right now, for them the HIV is around 93% for every 100. For those ones who are mining the ones who are mining the ones who are mining oil carried out the survey. They wanted to tell people, and they stopped it. Because for every 100, 93 were HIV. That's the history there. That's the story. You can even go there and check. And we are the public school by the church, so that's where I enrolled for P1. And I think I could be the only one who is surviving. I tried in fish to raise fees through a national park, 75 kilometers. Fortunately, I make it through Orengo. I got Orengo. Bakuma used to see me with my bicycle. I would ride from Rukunjiri up to Ntungam. I'm trying to make it a summary until I get people. I got people to help me, and to cut the story short, I'm in the university. But before that, cholera, we're talking about the disease, hits the same place, and the medicine that I knew of, were told, was a one-day-old chick to drink its blood. So I steal that one-old-day chick and feed my mother, who was with cholera, who had gotten cholera with blood, and I collapsed because I got it. And somehow, I think I was the first to be attended to, but thousands of people died. So I survived. Now I'm at the university and I'm needed. So government is removing boom assistance to the university students. So I form a group of my friends, and whom was I negotiating with? David Purkor. As deputy minister representing Ramanyam Shega. What was David Purkor's mission? To buy time. So that towards the end he says, oh, you can wage war if you want, there is no money. And indeed, but then I learned of him in time. We have an appointment with the president, I went with him. Papa Richard is my witness. Tell the president, Mr. President, they are not giving us money. No, don't mind. When that day comes, I will give you the money. If they're going to give you, then I will get it from their PS. I said, well, but Mr. President, I'm inviting you. Then I'm agreed to president. He comes. So when he comes, Mr. President, I'm reminding you that you tell the students about the other money. Oh, okay. Minister, make sure they have transport. Now I have an excuse to mobilize the students to cross the university. Because the minister has said there is no money, the president is saying there is money. So I tell the students, cross gates for the rich who come to collect their children. They can only enter, they don't get out. Understood? Yes. And we cross it. You come in with crap, but no exit. And I think within an hour, the entire last was full. Then I give an order. Okay, if they're not giving us money in 30 minutes, start banking. Any kind of run on fire. And I had my very good Carpachon voice. And they were mobilizing to ban them. Then I get the call. What is the problem, Shana? Our money. No, don't ban. Tomorrow, by morning, the money will be there so you can go and arrange. And then we will get our money. So we start violence. That you cannot get what you are entitled to live, to move, unless you use violence or threaten violence. Because we had done the negotiations with David Purkor as deputy minister. We have met the president. We are even lucky, by the way. You know those processes to meet the president. All agreement is done. The president has even made a pronouncement, and the minister is saying you can come and approve President Towers. But with the threat of violence, the thing is done instant. I'm now coming to your UN boss. Very little because I know there isn't time. Now, we go to another process where I have another witness. I sit with some conceptualize an idea. I send it to Brigadier Kayanja, Director of International Security Organization. We send it to members of parliament from northern Uganda. They buy it, they adopt it. What was the idea? That you can have security, you can have stability, you can have peace in northern Uganda if you have a program of post-conflict construction. And that is the current PRDP. So when you see it, the originator is here. And we write the concept. I invite Bakuma because he's representing the NGO world, civil society. I'm representing government, and Professor Ogengara Tiko is representing members of parliament. We sign it, we said it. The first meeting, better cage, as Minister for Security. Someone is me. You are my officer. Why do you send this document to the president and others without my signature? You should have drafted it and you bring for me to sign. Therefore, I'm going to shoot it down. While you there, and the next thing I hear, they have launched it. We, the originators, are not involved, and the money comes. Then I see the former Prime Minister is driving a 600 million Mercedes-Benz from that idea meant to do post-conflict resolution. Now, at this stage, how do you expect me to react? For you to have your freedom from violence? Because I have engaged in forget about those fellows who are dying in Karamoja. We are now looking at proactive means to resolve those contradictions and solve the problem. But every aspect we do, you steal. Obote and the others put up the NSSF fund. Now there is money. Our social security, you steal it, and you realize in the future you will not be able to pay. You want to make a law that if you had your money there, on retirement you can only get 30%. Because the 70% is not there. All those. So, I have survived being among the 78 who are dying. I'm among the 22%. But if I'm concerned about those who are dying, how am I going to converse with you? Now, I have had a conversation, like for instance, with General Kanikayura recently. And he says, yeah, there are contradictions, except we have opposite, equal opposite. But to survive, one has to dominate the ground. So I'm going to build the capability to dominate the ground. Yes, and is recruiting and training the police. They are going to recruit and train the army to dominate the ground. So the ground is dominated. Now, if I'm to have a meeting, a conversation like you, because here, I can't afford this to this. We are taking so that this place is paid for. So I'm only getting this chance to share my view by accident or by luck. But hold the meeting openly, you must fill the form and seek permission. Even that one is not there. So the only way you can demonstrate is to go and buy a pig, which is also at some cost, paint it, which is also at some cost, drive it, which is at some cost, with the coffee, and then drop it and you take off. But even when they get you, they arrest you. You don't know what will happen next. Because you cannot afford to demonstrate. Now, so what is the other way that will compare you? Because persuasion can't. What is the other way that is going to compare you to come for a conversation? I'm really looking for it, because ideas you have no for. Reason, those who are now in charge of the consolidated fund, the majority of them are senior 6 or its equivalent, and they are no longer looking at society, they are looking at themselves. 2, they dominate society because campaigns are too expensive. And the other peasant has lost hope in democracy. He's saying, you give me money, I drink my beer, I will also give you a vote. In other words, they are not even willing to listen to any reason. Actually, when you go there, they tell you that we know you want to tell us, you will fix roads, they start telling you what you have on the paper. So don't waste your time, we know that, and we also know you want to do them anyway. So give us our beer. You don't have, go. The other fora is the church. For the church, they ask you, we are going to sell our matok and these things I have collected. How much the budget do you have? If you don't have enough, they say, no, please, you are not the guest. If they realize you have, the church will make you a guest of honor and they will give you a seat. So even the churches are that terribly corrupt. The others, where you can get people, are burial ceremonies. For them, they tell in advance, are you going to sponsor the entire burial? So you have to begin. You had like when Kanyom was Juliana lost a kid. Many were supporting the entire funeral is on me. But so because that's what preparation is, and it's also now on budget. So there is nowhere you will get people unless you have money. So you who have the idea, the problem I had the other time, you can't have forum, but you must be listened to. And I'm submitting it to you that you go and tell them. Somewhere, Charles Commissioner says that the only way he can be brought on agenda is either to threaten violence or actually unleash it. From violence must be threatened. Now, when it is threatened, you will think twice before you give the other fellows the legitimacy. For the ER, or you have either voted for them or you have given them a legitimacy. So that either we all live or we all die. The moment you accept that all of us live, then we live in harmony because all of us are breathing. There is sufficient air. Everyone wants to drink water. It's available in Lake Victoria. This soil can give us all the food we need. The women are there to produce. If you want, you can even have 10. But the moment you say that all the women are yours, all the oxygen is yours, all the water is yours, then be rest assured you won't have freedom from violence. I will threaten your life. You kill me or I kill you, and we all die, or you accept all of us live. I thank you.
Thank you, members. Thank you, Honorable Rumshana. I'm very sensitive that there are quite a number of people. So I'm saying, just to make a comment to your children, and then your children also talk to you.
Thank you very much for giving me this chance at this today. But I'm excited that I'm Peter Wangulu, born in the Eastern region, educated by Christians. Peter. But what I'm talking about at the moment is to find ways of uniting. Unity is strength. Find ways of solving our problems. Why is it that Africa is in the third world? And yet it should be the first world, because it is said that a human being began in Africa. I don't know whether I'm right, or perhaps you have heard it, but here, Kilimanjaro. Some say where this lake begins. That's recently opposed me, but when I said that a human being began in Kilimanjaro, in Tanzania. And that's why are we black and all the other states are white? Oh yes, the biggest part of Africa is along the equator. I think that's the answer. The equator divides Africa into two. One part is in the south, some part in the north. In any case, today, many of our people who are in power, they talk too much of income and expenditure and whatever. But the education system in the whole continent is doing Africa more harm than good. I am not mad to say so. But I'm telling you the truth, it's too much theoretical. We don't produce even a safety pin for gigas. Not even a toothpick. Not even a mosquito coil. Almost everything, however simple it is imported. Even this paper, it was me who went to Kenya and I saw Bungoma. I think some of you have come from that area. From Busia to Bungoma is about 30 miles. I saw the trees and so on, but I said, no, even a simple paper comes from outside. The education system in Africa is doing us more harm than good, believe me. Anyway, thank you very much for listening to me.
Okay. So I wanted to bring you back from African unity to the topic of tonight, of peace and security, to be included in the post-2015 development agenda. And we are looking at two components. In your view, what do you think should be done to achieve peace and security under the auspice of the United Nations? That is question one, or component one. And the component two is, what is your advice to the United Nations?
The America, the Western world, the superpowers, first of all, they need to avoid the past history and use reason. Here I'm trying to mean rationality. Why are they moving up and down, going to other countries, like supporting rebel groups. You can look at now what is transpiring in Syria. You can look at what transpired in Iraq in 2003. You can look at what is transpiring right now in DRC, what is transpiring in Central African Republic. So, our dear Secretary General to the UN, representing Uganda, we are requesting, we youth, from my point of view, that maybe you disseminate this information to those who are concerned, that let them avoid unnecessary wars. Let them fight the wars that are disturbing or detribalizing the minds of the youth, like unemployment. One president in the US, John F. Kennedy, said that poverty is the mother of revolution in the world. And as Romushana said, if we don't do that, then we shall turn back, we shall go back to the other century of Thomas Hobbes, where he said that man by nature is brutal, life is short and nasty in him. Thank you very much for listening to me.
My name is Seguia Hilary Innocent Taylor, and I'm working with UN Uganda. The Secretary General of UN Uganda talked about the issue of South Africa distancing itself from the issue of the inclusion of peace and security on the development agenda. So, as stakeholders or as concerned citizens of the entire world, I was thinking that why can't we have dialogue with those countries that are, distancing themselves from the issue of peace and security to be included in development agenda 2016 to 2030. Then Mr. Romushana talked about the issue of exerting some excessive pressure when we are demanding for certain issues. But with this 21st century, I don't believe in the issue of enticing violence in our societies. Let's do things diplomatically and achieve the goals that we want to see.
My name is Muganga Katusi. So we are discussing peace and security, and it's interesting. I myself work for the United Nations under the Agency of Refugees, and my opinion is that when we find an elder like Mr. Wankuru emphasizing the importance of unity of African people, it's something that is significant if we are going to be serious about creation of peace and security. The setup of the United Nations today is such that there is no genuine emphasis of issues. People talk about these issues, but for me, the way I'm reading, people are not serious. People are these great powers of the United States of America, Europe, they put their interests ahead of the interests of these other smaller nations. So what's the way forward? If we want our voices to be respected and heard, it is important that we unite as African people. So we are not being genuine in the discussion. You go in the United Nations, the United States of America is there sitting, discussing peace and security. They're the biggest causative agents of insecurity across the globe. But we can't be respected because we are divided. So what's the way forward? We need to unite. It is a serious point these guys are talking about, the Wankurus. And these are our elders who have had a lot of experience. So when they come here and emphasize that we must unite, it's an issue of serious consideration. And I call upon you to join me about organization and things of that kind, so that we get serious about this thing of unity of African people, here and across the globe. Thank you so much.
My submission, I would like to concur with the Honorable David Pulkol that for us to achieve peace and security, the issue of governance across the world over, Africa and all other countries, the issue of governance has to be addressed. Say, for example, the issue of empowerment. People really need to be empowered, both with information and skills. I bring up an example like for us in Uganda here now, given the fact that most youth, the unemployment rate is actually so high. It's not because that either people are not informed of. But of course, like given the education system, we really need to develop a lot of skills beyond the colonial education system. Just take for a case now like of skilling in Uganda. Skilling in Uganda, this is an institution whereby people could learn other more skills in addition to bachelor degrees, masters, and we need really to establish this at the regional level, say maybe in Uganda and even in Africa, such that more youth can get more skills in addition to their paper colonial skills we have. Then with empowerment whereby everybody has a skill, at least income generation will not be a problem, and this will not breed conflict. Furthermore, the issue of participation in governance, I believe that all nationals should be brought on board to participate as stakeholders. Then furthermore, the issue of accountability. You realize that even our leaders, of course, need to be accountable to the communities. And then the issue of respect for human rights, like we had the horror police issue and tear gas. We are all human beings, and like dignity should really be observed. Yeah, thank you. So I think basically on that, if governance issue is addressed, we shall achieve sustainable peace and security. Okay. But other than that, we shall always be on the drawing board of the next 5 years also. Thank you.
Thank you, Okwari. Shall we have a lady?
Thank you so much. I'm Nari Sarita, Makerere University, Unao, Mukchapta. My major problem to addressing to the UN is the homelessness of the greatest number of people in Uganda. Most people are homeless, and this cannot work out if the highest percentage rate of people are homeless. Most people do not have where to stay at all. So I would address this to the UN.
Okay.
If you want to maintain peace, start with yourself. You yourself, how peaceful are you with your neighbors? You're looking at the peace as a whole in the world of Africa, but you need to work on yourselves. Another thing I see targeting parliamentarians, civil servants, in looking at Uganda, we have a problem with parliamentarians. We have something called democracy, but I think it's something like just a word. There is dictatorship, which is being practiced, and we are pretending that we really have democracy. So as the UN agency or association, I urge you, whenever there is insecurity in a certain country, you need to intervene and know the root cause of the problem. We need to encourage round-table discussion. It's not people here suffering and you're there pretending that you're helping us solving our problems. Sit down with those people, those in power, and know the root cause and find a solution. That's the only thing, because I know wars will always be there, insecurities, because an insecurity comes with time depending on factors prevailing. I will find myself quarreling with this person because of a certain factor which has come up. So if you're someone who is to, as an institution, to bring in peace, you have to find out why I had to quarrel with my neighbor before you really bring in a solution. That's what you have to do as UN. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm called Kurbigambo Justice. Mine is also concerning governance. We shall meander many times, but we need to know that governance is a precondition to peace. And peace is also a precondition to stability and then economic development. And specifically, I am primarily concerned about, they say when you want to count the sand, you start where you're starting from. before I go to the international, I would like to look at Uganda. We have had a problem where we do not have the predictability. I mean, I was born in peace, I'm now 25 years, but I cannot define whether in 5 or 10 years to come I will still be in a peaceful situation. Simply because I would like to give you an example of Kenya. Kenya has always had violences, but in the process of looking for the leaders. But in Uganda, we are now, that's why we think we are on tenterhooks, because we cannot know in 10 years who will be the head of state. So the problem of predictability, of unpredictability, is a very serious threat to peace.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm Juliana from Macquarie University Business School, and my main view is mainly about a way forward and with main focus on conflict prevention. Honorable Puko put it plainly that the average age of Ugandans is 15 years, and maybe next year they'll sit and pass the SDGs. Probably the freedom from violence, agenda number 16, will be there. But 15 years from now, they'll expect these 15-year-olds to implement what is being decided upon as at the SDGs. So, my way forward, what are we doing right now to empower the 15-year-olds who are gambling, who are taking alcohol? What are we doing right now? Because in future, maybe say 10 years from now, we shall expect them to be the ones implementing the SDGs which would have been passed. Thank you.
This is Makoa Sharif. So there is one of the comrades in front who talked about security in terms of food security. I will also talk about health factors. You know, some of the issues are implemented in town, but when I look back in the villages where even I reside from, HIV is at a high spread, and insecurity sometimes causes death. But HIV is at a high spread, reason being some of the things that are implemented in towns where there are very many people aren't implemented in villages. And the villagers are the ones who produce maybe food to the people who are in towns. But you find that pornography is too much in villages and it is not cared of. Blue movies are shown to the younger children. You find them because they are fishermen. They begin fishing at a younger, tender age. They have money, they go and attend to new things. And the long arm of the government doesn't reach there to maybe refuse these children to go to attend to such things. That's when you see that they will come out of there with different ideas and they will go on to sleep with women doing this and that. That's when you see that diseases are high spread and people are dying. So I would beg that UN should also focus on that so that it can move down to the villages and at least eradicate such things.
Okay, thank you.
Vincent. Olema Vincent, yes. Thank you. Yeah, mine is if we don't address the problem of youth and employment, we shall not achieve peace and security. And then another thing is governance. 3, we need to change all across board Africa. As Mose had said, we need courses that can provide hands-on for us across board, across Africa, across the world. If you are all employed or you have something to do, I'm telling you, we'll have peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Vincent. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm called Karampenyi Robert. I come from Macquarie University. Mine is a simple query to the UN Secretary General. Because as far as I know, the UN, at least it has tried to intervene to every conflict that has happened. And in Great Lakes, at least Congo has tried to have many wars, but UN intervened immediately. In Somalia, UN intervened immediately, but wars are still going on. I don't know how different this time it is going to intervene in post-2015. Say that they are going to make sure that there is security. Because whenever they go, they make sure they stay and the war stays there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The name is Senyor Armstrong. Mr. Moderator, I wish that we should stick to our cultures. Otherwise, if at all we redefine our cultures, they address all the security and peace issues. For instance, in our cultures, we have respect to each other. We know when to work and what to do. For instance, many members have been, should I say, lamenting about the homosexual bill. But perhaps you stick to our cultures. Could you accept that? Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm called Henry Wataga. The topic is very simple: peace and security and conflict prevention. So my message to the UN is one: they should do something which is very, very vital to every citizen, that they should come to the ground and see these countries which are suffering with dictatorship, with the lack of democracy. It seems we are faced with a pendulum movement in history, which is swinging from absolutism to democracy, and from democracy to dictatorship. And unless some of the things are addressed, people will continue to die.
Thank the audience, especially the students who are here for the first time from different universities. I thank you for coming. I want to make just two reactions. There is our mission, and this one goes to the UN. To me, what is missing here is the issue of individual security. Mr. Baguma, this is my submission seriously, which I beg that you will not, and Dr. Honorable Prokol, the issue of individual security. Because when you talk about all the securities we have had, and I'm talking about securities we have had, we sometimes forget the minorities. I've had people here bashing homosexuals, and I look and I wonder, if you think you are secure as a heterosexual like myself, why do you want to make the life of homosexual very insecure? And then you begin blaming UN, blaming America for saying simply be tolerant. That is what I'm talking to my brother Isiko. We don't need to be homosexuals to be tolerant. We simply need to understand that some people may be different from us anyway. Why do we need to witch hunt them? For example, in Uganda, you have heard stories, Mr. Oguma, stories of people being killed because they are called witches. Abalogo. Have you heard about that? Who has come up and say, why do you kill someone because you think they bewitched you? Which evidence do you have? Legally, which evidence do you have? Anyway, I can tell us here. Whether there's any evidence about the witchcraft act, and you know, what evidence do you have and say, I used the magic to kill you or your son? And then you come and make your anger on my family. You have seen how many families. So UN, how are you going to help us on the minorities?
Somebody has evidence, but
on the minorities. People like the prostitutes, some of them may not want to talk about them. But if you say you're a human rights defender, what are you doing to protect them? The witches, or the people who are called witches, the Pygmies, and all those people are abused because they are few and we are the majority. What are you doing to protect them? So finally, I want to implore the UN for doing a good job so far, but ask you and still maintain that the best way to control these countries, these, I normally call them rogue regimes, including ours, is by putting sanctions. If you want a way forward, sanctions, sanctions and sanctions. Because if you are going to respect people's rights, talk by words, and then in action or doing something different, there must be something to create order. Thank you so much.
So, thank you. No,
let's put this discussion back on context. What do we mean by national security or by security? I think national security, the way I've known it, and I would like to see it in a democracy, is state security, meaning those pillars of a state, okay? Plus human security. Now, state security is a small component of regime security. It's not everything about regime. Okay, there must be a country called Uganda. That country must be stable. Its people must be peaceful. That kind of thing must live within a peaceful environment, at peace with its neighbors, and therefore must be a dependable player at the international peace, okay, in contributing to that international regional peace. That state must be strong, must be stable, but first and foremost, when you say about human security, we're talking about two things: freedom from fear and freedom from want. It is the freedom, is the security of the individual citizens. That's why it's human security. Freedom from fear, any physical harm that makes you afraid. That physical insecurity must be dealt with so that citizens don't live under fear. But also, they must be free from want. The human needs, their rights must be respected. So that's why food security becomes part of national security. That's why health becomes a security issue. That's why these are like environmental security. Our survival base is declining in quality and quantity. And therefore, that's why I like what is being proposed as sustainable development goals. So the idea of sustainability is very, very important. Brings the security in the entire goals. Because will this Mother Earth, our natural resource base as Uganda, will it continue meeting the needs of today as well as meeting the needs of tomorrow? That's why it is very important for our countries to focus on these issues of human security and the sustainability. Look at our soils now. Here within the Intercaspian region, with between these lakes of Lake Victoria, Lake George, Lake Kyoga, and so Kivus and so forth, it's getting excessively oxidized. The alkalinity, the acidity of our soil needs reconditioning. So you ask yourself, and the soil erosion is claiming top active soil. If we came from the soil and we're going back to the soil, where will some of us go if the topsoil is going? So these issues must start to be focused on. If you look at River Manapa taking 40 tons of sediments per every kilometer of that river from Mount Elgon, emptying all that in Lake Yoga, will that lake be there in 50 years? This is terrible. So issues like these needs to be tackled and should start to be part of the development agenda. So I think let's focus on state security, human plus human security. But unfortunately for us in Kampala, the PGBization of our army, of our police, I don't know if there's such an English word like PGBized. I mean Presidential Guard Brigade, PGB, in charge of our army. So Kale Kaihura was just a military assistant to the president when I knew him. He was just growing like a lieutenant, second lieutenant, lieutenant colonel. Aranda was a lieutenant, a captain. When he became a major, that's when they took him to CMI and then moved on. So most of these, including this one recently, was promoted 3 times in 1 year. Ruban, I don't know that young man. You remember him? He's now the chief of general staff.
That boy.
That boy. These are young boys that really, okay? So standing behind the president, carrying his briefcase, saluting and opening the door, that type of stuff. Now in charge of a whole army. So for them, that's why I said again, do we have the concept of national security right? Where is the loyalty first? So I think we need to get that concept right. And therefore, the kind of security we should call for, I think should put a lot of emphasis on human security. You ask the question, UN has been intervening in all these wars, but the wars are not going away. So what will be new this time? That now peace and security will be included within the development agenda. So I think the UN has a homework to do. So what is new? I think that was a very good question. So if we want to make a change and really convince the global citizens that UN is serious, I think they need to come clear why up till now, okay, wars have been not dying and giving back to ashes. Why another war gets on top of another war, and yet UN is there intervening. So the 4 checks and balances. Constitutionalism, my friend here talked about. So we have a constitution, but without constitutionalism. So where leaders think a constitution is just a mere piece of paper, they say term limit is just a mere paper constraint. Imagine calling a whole sacred law of the land just a mere constitution. Now, even where the constitution is being broken by the very people who swear by it, they raise the Bible to defend and uphold. You remember, and then they're the very first ones again to break it. So I think in that case, what will the UN do if we take on those leaders? And the problem is that these leaders go to UN, they give them red carpet. They are welcome. They salute. They come back happy as heroes. Can you imagine? And yet, their scene of crime is far away from the UN. So now sanctions. Somebody said they hurt the ordinary people. Maybe we need smart sanctions. Like should such leaders even get a visa to go to the UN? I think they should be stopped and say you don't belong here. You belong somewhere else. And those smart sanctions should be individual sanctions that will not hurt citizens. I think there we can. And then therefore the issue of every 15 years, I think the sustainability, I think I've commented on it. And I think final is to thank all of you for being such great, very vibrant team. And really I must thank you, and it's always enjoyable to be here. God bless you.
Thank you very much. We shall now have the Secretary General of UNAW to conclude.
Thank you very much. Whether it is for us in civil society, whether it is people in the government, there is a question, an issue that arose here. There is an issue of mutual survival. We survive of each other, and we usually perish together. I don't know if you realize that if you squeeze a group of people, if you marginalize them into hopelessness, if you marginalize them into feeling that they have nothing to lose, including their lives, then they become suicide bombers. But whom do they go? So this is realism. David talked about the private sector being at the forefront pushing this. People are oftentimes more realistic than a lot of us. While we are evangelizing and talking about statements of faith, for them they make decisions and move. They realize that it is a question of mutual survival. Let me tell you one of the things. It's about climate change. I don't know if you read, and some of them are public. The latest security updates from the by the FBI and the CIA. They all agree that one of the greatest global security threats is climate change. So who has ammunition, who has bombs and what against a tsunami? If a tsunami invades from Lake Victoria, it doesn't matter that you have MiG. It will find you with your MiG. So we are talking about issues of mutual survival. And therefore, we cannot say you have to do that and me, I am here. We are in it together. We have a role at an individual level. We have a role at a household level. We have roles in our communities, the smaller micro communities and the macro communities. Now, I can input into the macro communities. What are you doing at your level? And these are the questions we must ask ourselves. The second thing is that we must take advantage of these platforms to educate and make aware ourselves. Because probably some of us had never engaged with this issue. Some of us didn't know that the goals are now 17, but they must narrow. It has been agreed that probably the maximum will be 11 goals. And you know, ladies and gentlemen, the decisions are made by the UN Musevenis of this world. It's the heads of state and government who make the final decisions. Whether we like it or not, that is the situation now. We can only change that situation in another way. But it is the heads of state and government. That is why David, when he was regional director for UNICEF, with all the power, he could travel by chartered plane. This is David. Because UNICEF has the resources to charter for him a plane to go into the jungles of Congo. But whom was he negotiating with? The rebel leader. It doesn't matter. He had to negotiate with the Mai Mai. Who are the Mai Mai? You charter a plane to go and beg the Mai Mai. That's the reality in the world that we live in. And getting peace and development involves active listening. It is not only active talking. So when you come and give your point and you run away, you are not actively listening to me. You must actively listen if we are going to deliver this good world that we need. And we must start with ourselves. Finally, I do not subscribe to the saying that we will get peace and security out of the balance of terror. Because I hear people say that if I am terroristic enough and you are terroristic enough, then you will fear me. We must have freedom from fear, and I want to amend David. Not want, but need, because wants never end. We should have freedom from fear and freedom from need, so that our basic needs are met. And that's what we are talking about this time. The fundamental difference between the Millennium Development Goals 2000 to 2015 and these ones is that the other ones, they went and decided. By the way, no one consulted us. No. The UN Secretariat chose 8 goals and they said these are the goals. And the leaders signed up to them. You and me couldn't reject them. So we started fitting within them. Now we have a chance to input. Let's take this chance. I thank you very much, and I'm humbled that all of you have come and listened to me, because who am I? But like I said, faith has served me a good menu, and I will take it. I thank you so much.